Sure.
Okay. All right. Greetings and welcome everyone to the first episode of Think Free, a screencast that we've created to set the record straight. Because let's face it, it's a zoo out there. And in the wild, wild west of wellness, I admit, us city slickers thought we had it all figured out until we didn't. Thank you all for tuning in. My name is David Choi, and I'm the executive producer and the creator of Think Free. And man, I just want to give a huge shout out to all my friends and mentors from whom I've gleaned so much inspiration and support. Mike Mutzel, Drew Pruitt, Dr. Rudy Gurman, Pamela Gold, Sage Raider, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, Dave Hippensteel, my buddy Frank Karachi out in LA, who told me that I only fail when I stop trying, and all the previous speakers at Biohack the World. I would not be where I am today without you and your support and your energy. And I want you to know that I'm not only just doing this for New York City, but I'm also doing it for you. And thank you so much to all our donors for all your support and helping to make my work in wellness a reality. And if you know anyone who can benefit from this information, please do take a moment to share this with your friends and family on social media. Think Free is essentially a means for me to invite some of the biggest brains from various disciplines in health, science, economics, and city management, all in an effort to build an effective platform from which we can transform this magnificent megalopolis into the healthiest big city in the world. There's light at the end of this quarantine tunnel, and we need a great plan for the future now. So we here at Biohack the World, we're attempting something that's never been done before. We're going all in on turning New York City into a very fine example of what happens when entire communities and boroughs make health and fitness their number one priority over everything. And I mean everything. Because I read the other day a very sad story that a COVID patient in a New York City ICU, just before that person passed, they asked the attending nurse who was going to pay for the medical bill. And those were his final words. And I just was so disheartened by hearing that, because just thought, my God, what kind of a perverse culture have we created where material goods and money take precedence over our own lives? If that were me, anything material would be meaningless. And I would hope the same for you. And speaking of priorities, when I started my biohacking journey back in 2014, I made a promise to myself to make fitness my number one priority over everything. I tricked myself into thinking that if I did that, then everything in my life would fall into place exactly as it should. If I didn't have time to take on that extra project because I was too busy at CrossFit, well, then that just meant that that project wasn't meant to be. If I couldn't afford to date because all my time, resources, and energy were going towards building up my cardiovascular capacity and my startups, then fuck. Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm still single. Damn it. I mean, honestly, I didn't mean for this dry streak to go on for this long, but anyway, the point is that you too can trick yourself. Humans are the most superstitious and perhaps most gullible as we are superstitious. So, I mean, we have all kinds of sayings like step on a crack, break your mother's back, Mercury's in retrograde, so fuck my life. Never say happy birthday before the person's actual birthday if you're Russian. And my personal favorite, God is our gut microbiome, which actually makes a lot of intuitive sense. So I'm kind of sticking to that one. But yes, so you can trick yourself too. It's called acting as if it's true, right? And guess what? My newfound persona as a competitive athlete with a fitness first mantra, it worked big time. When I shifted my priorities over to developing myself into a competitive CrossFit athlete, I joined an entire community of people who also make fitness their number one priority over everything. And that had incredibly positive downstream effects on my health and happiness. I went sober. I got off all my prescriptions. My depression and anxiety were completely resolved. I regained lost confidence. I got raises and promotions at work. My relationships with friends and family were dramatically improved. And at the age of 35, I was able to see my abs for the first time. I really didn't think that that was ever going to be possible in this lifetime, but it did. And to this day, I continue to act as if I'm training for the CrossFit Games Master 60 Plus division. And by living this rather stoic lifestyle where discipline equals freedom, I'm effectively slowing down the aging process as much as humanly possible, thereby giving myself a much longer runway for health span and longevity. And I consider this to be my single greatest competitive advantage because I'm not strong, I'm not as fast as so many other people, but because when the technological advances arrive to help us live to 200 and beyond, we want them to come to us first, right? Because we all know that those technological advances, they're not going to happen for everybody. No, they're going to happen for a very special breed of us. That very unnatural selection from where the human race is going to advance is going to happen for people who eat, sleep, and breathe gold medals. The people who go all in on winning, the best of the best. The question is, do you have what it takes? And hopefully this show will show you the way. And today we're diving into men's health with my very own sports physician, Dr. Neil Paulvin. Dr. Paulvin has helped me feel and perform my best through thick and thin, and I really owe it to him to help me in helping me overcome a huge hurdle, and that was low testosterone. But before we dive into tonight's discussion, we have a little trivia that we're going to kick things off with, and we're going to have all of you answer this one. And the first one to answer correctly will win a free copy of Ben Greenfield's Boundless book, as well as an initial consultation with Dr. Neil Paulvin, a total value of $195. All right, if you're ready. The question is, and please do submit your multiple choice answer privately to Julia Olafson, our production assistant, in the chat. So directly to her, not to the group. And she's going to post this question into the chat so everyone can see it, okay? So when was the term testosterone first coined? Was it A, 1786, B, 1889, C, 1905, or D, 1935? All right. I hope everyone had a chance to think about that and put your answers in and send it to Julia. All right, cool. So we're going to move on over to Neil, and I'm going to read his bio real quick. So Dr. Paulvin's goal with all of his patients is to optimize their health in the first 60-minute visit. True. I totally agree with that. He is board certified in family medicine, anti-aging and regenerative medicine, osteopathic manipulation, functional medicine, craniosacral therapy, and medical acupuncture. He has helped top executives, Olympic athletes, top trainers, and celebrities optimize their health. He's been featured in the New York Post, Nutritious Life, Fasting MD, and many other publications and podcasts. His practice is based in Manhattan, and he also serves clients in multiple states, including Florida, California, Illinois, New Jersey, and Connecticut over telemedicine. He uses traditional and alternative treatments to help his patients, and he's particularly known for his expertise in biohacking and health optimization. And he specializes in helping his patients with hormone optimization, peptide therapy, nootropics, and natural options for pain relief. Cool. So we're going to dive into my blood labs. But before we do, we're going to talk to Neil. So Neil, thank you so much for joining this conversation here and talking about a very difficult topic for a lot of guys, because we all know guys don't like to talk about low T, ED, LDL, and all these other things, low libido. So let's kind of dive into that. But before, tell us a little bit about why you got into medicine, how you got into sports medicine, and yeah. Oh, can't hear you. You are muted.
Now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am loud, so it shouldn't be a problem. No, so first of all, men are not bashful about talking about this at all. It's not the taboo subject. I think since Viagra came out like 10 years or 12 years ago, it's become almost like a carrying card more than the opposite. But anyway, thanks for having me. This is going to be a fun hour here talking men's health, because a lot of times men are the underrepresented sex in terms of healthcare. We're about 30% of the people who actually go to the doctor. But I got into this because, in terms of sports initially, because I was an athlete, I abused myself, and didn't love just going on steroids or taking Advil all the time. So I kind of got into acupuncture and some natural treatments for that and some headaches. And as you kind of read in my bio, I kind of found things I liked that helped myself, and then I wanted to help other patients do the same thing. So it snowballed starting about 10, 12 years ago, and now I have a lot of cool tools, traditional and non-traditional, to help my patients if they're sick, or in this case, help patients maximize their health and their performance.
Cool. Awesome. What kind of athlete were you when you were competing?
Oh, no, nothing more, everything from rec to, I mean, I was everything running, basketball, softball, soccer, stuff like that. Nothing professional, nothing at a high end now. That's why I became a doctor.
Cool. So a little history on me. This whole thing, how I started getting into biohacking, was really, it wasn't so that I could get like 6-pack abs. It was because I was having difficulty getting it up. I mean, just like libido issues, and I just wasn't myself anymore. I was prescribed Celexa, Ambien, Xanax, Klonopin, just a whole host of prescriptions to try to manage my anxiety and my depression. And this was before I started my biohacking journey, before I started getting into CrossFit. I was just turning like 30, 31, and I was scared shitless. I was like, oh my God, this is maybe the end. Like, I don't know what life is going to be like after, without like being able to perform sexually. So, yeah. And I do want to know, like, is that out of, is that abnormal for men at 30 to be experiencing that? I mean, that's a really accelerated schedule in terms of like a midlife crisis, right?
Not anymore, especially not in New York. I mean, if you people have high stress lives, they have, they are, as we know, unfortunately, what's going on now, we're as overweight as we've ever been, which is actually affect your hormone production. People are stressed out. People have so many toxins that I know you've talked about in a bunch of your Biohack the World presentations. That's going to affect your hormone production. So it's become more and more common, and like I said, men and women are kind of more and more open about it. So it's not uncommon. It does, obviously it's going to happen greater likelihood as you get older, but I have patients come in their 20s.
So wow. Okay.
It's because combination of just the hormones are off, could be psychological, could be a combination of both. You just got to figure that out.
Yeah, it certainly runs a gamut. So let's say someone like me, I'm approaching you, I have low testosterone, or I'm just not feeling my best. What should I look for in terms of men's health? Like just overall high level, what's like kind of the boilerplate?
In terms of symptoms, in terms of what they should do about it?
In terms of what they should do for low testosterone or low energy, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Inability to maintain a solid erection.
So, gotcha. So really what it comes down to, the first thing we always talk to is, there's usually the big four, the big five, we talk about men's health, that we look at, that is a problem. If decreased libido, decreased erection, are you depressed? How is your brain health, and how is your energy? So that's usually the main things that I see men for, besides, again, they have like a sport injury or other things going on. But that's kind of that core five is really what we look at. And a lot of times they're intertwined. First of all, not everything is low testosterone. Even if your testosterone is low, it's not causing all your symptoms. And if you have ED and your testosterone is normal, there's other things that we look at that can be causing it. So it's not always a one-to-one relationship. Other things we always look at are growth hormone. We look at your insulin levels, because there's an interrelationship between insulin and testosterone. Your cortisol levels, which for people who don't know, is your stress hormone, which unfortunately now is getting triggered in everybody. That can affect both your mood and erection. We look at something called sex hormone binding globulin, which we'll probably go into a little more later when we look at your labs. The way I explain it to you is kind of the doc for a lot of your hormones, especially testosterone is the one that goes to the most. Diet is a big a component of all of this, depending on what you're eating. If you're eating a crummy diet, you're eating donuts and Twinkies every day and nothing, that's a part of it. And then it's also, some of it's mindset. I mean, mindset's a part of it. If you're stressed out or just have no positivity, it's actually been shown that it's definitely a psychological component. So it runs the gamut, and now it's cool because everything from prescriptions to cool toys to cool tech out there to help patients, to injections to a bunch of stuff that wasn't out there 10 years ago when I started doing this stuff.
Right. And then there's also sleep, right? That was one of my biggest things, that I wasn't sleeping normally. And someone was telling me, you just need to sleep if you want higher testosterone. And you know what? That actually helped quite a bit. Now I'm trying to get as much sleep as possible. Not even using an alarm clock to wake up, just allowing my body to get as much sleep as possible.
Sleep is a big component. That's when your testosterone regenerates, when your growth hormone gets to its peak. It's when your cortisol is supposed to come down. So all those things definitely. If you don't sleep and you're not eating right and you're not exercising, which I didn't mention, getting patient on the right exercise regimen, make sure they're not overtraining. Because even if you do 8 workouts a week, that actually may be a part of the reason why you're having some of the complaints, because it's affecting the hormones I just mentioned.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. So, like I was giving you a little bit about my history, I was able to overcome and get out of that ditch and get back to a normal baseline, or what I thought was normal baseline, until I actually started doing blood tests, and it showed that I had low testosterone, and that was alarming. So now I'm at this point where I'm trying to optimize my testosterone, as opposed to just getting it out from, dangerously low levels. And so let's maybe talk about my blood labs. And before we get into that, I learned a few things as I was going along this journey, and maybe I'll just give some pointers that I've learned about blood labs, that they serve as a snapshot for your health. It's a point in time, just like your fitness is a snapshot of your total health over time. And then you should be trying to monitor trends over time and not just base everything off of one panel report. Just like you would like your HRV if you're tracking your Oura ring or on your Whoop band. Also, that blood panels are like I like this analogy, that blood panels are like pilots' instruments when flying, and that having this data is going to help you fly more safely and effectively, and adjust as needed if you're going off course. But unlike flying, you can't actually use these instruments alone. You can't just go based off the data, because some of it can be wrong. There's a 0.45% error rate in lab results that's attributed to human error, like sampling mix-ups. And so if something's totally off, you probably should get it retested, because there's that non-zero probability that the data is incorrect. And that the reference ranges, right? So the different labs where you send it to have different reference ranges, and those reference ranges are based on the demographics in your particular geography. So you don't necessarily want to be comparing yourself to other people in Brooklyn necessarily, if that's where you're getting tested. So what you're going to want is, you're going to want a doctor like Neil, Dr. Paulvin, who really understands what is the optimal range for all these things, not just a reference range, but what is the optimal range. Because my GP in Flushing, we have a bunch of Asians here, and she was like, oh yeah, Asian men just have naturally lower testosterone. But I didn't like that answer, so I went to you, Neil. And so, yeah, cool. So that was my little thing on blood labs, and maybe you want to give a little primer, or if you want to add to that a little bit.
No, sure. You kind of hit a lot of the big points. It's really two things. One is, yeah, there's always a lab error. For a lot of these things, like you said, it's a snapshot. So even for testosterone or sugar or anything else, we don't take it as a one-shot deal, no pun intended. We're going to check it a month or two afterwards and make sure that it's real, because you could have had a hard workout the day before, you could have had some type of whatever episode, or it could be a lab error, and we're treating you with something that's not there or not that low. So we always kind of try to get two pieces, at least get a flow. The other thing you mentioned that's very important is, yes, what the doctor sees, some traditional doctors will say, okay, you're average. The level they see is they're attributing you to be average. Most people, especially now, don't want to be average. And we now know that it's a traditional bell curve, and people remember from high school or whatever, that's what they're trying to do. They just want you in the middle. Most people don't want to be at 50%. They want to be at 90%, but safe. So that's what we know where optimal is without hurting somebody. And that's where a lot of people want to go. But I always tell patients, it's kind of like you juggle. There's some patients who want to be optimal and they want to be an 11 at everything. And some patients say, no, I just want to get to here, and I don't want to shoot myself, give myself a shot every month. Just get me to here where I feel good and I can, like, I hit those 5 check boxes before, and that's great too. So we can talk about more specific stuff as we kind of go through your lab work. And as you gladly volunteer to help everybody learn some stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's get into it.
Let's do
Take
it.
a look at my labs. I put a link, just so anyone who's listening here, I put a link to my blood labs in the chat, so you can access it there and you can follow along, or you could just download that just to have a copy for yourself. But Neil is going to share his screen right now.
I'm trying to.
We're going to take a look at it.
Here.
And I'm gonna want you to talk to me and us like, you know, we're 10-year-olds, because I don't think a lot of people actually review or study these labs the way, you know, because we don't have a lot of exposure to it.
You see them now?
Yep, we can see it.
Okay, so we're gonna go to the beginning here.
Nice. This is sort of, yep.
There we go. So I'm gonna try to do a perfect mix here where we're going to explain it without putting people to sleep here.
Okay. Yeah.
So what we did with Dave is, and I'll as long as it's good with Dave, I'll kind of try to hit everything here. It all does affect it. I'm not, but I can't do a deep dive into everything, which I think is probably a good thing. But
right.
What we did here is we did a bunch of hormones that we do check on anybody who have low testosterone that we're concerned about, who are fatigued, have low energy level. And we went from there. And also, I don't know if you want, we can bring it up. A lot of patients who are either fasting or on a restrictive diet or a keto diet have some abnormalities, not abnormalities, that's not a fair word at all, has some different lab results that may be different than other people, but are considered normal. So I know Dave and I have talked about that before. We may hit on that a little bit too. That's up to Dave, how we want to go here. But two things we look at in terms of labs are, one thing is called your LH, or your luteinizing hormone. These are hormones that help your body produce testosterone. For some reason, this lab company does not put them together in a nice organized package, but I'll try to group them as best I can.
Okay. And you can start like explaining this, like luteinizing hormone. Is that something, are these things terms that we should be remembering? Like, definitely let us know if there's ones that we should take notes on.
Sure. Now, I mean, men who are the things that definitely, it's probably easier. Let me do it this way. If you want, I can definitely answer. It's easier to do it this way than trying to do it piece by piece. In men who have history, any problem of memory issues in your early to mid, from anywhere from 20 to 45, really 5 main things you want to look at, or actually a little more than that. But LH, FSH, which go together, which shows the testicular response to your brain and the pituitary gland. Those are 2. You definitely want to obviously know your testosterone, but now testosterone has gotten more complicated. We just don't know the testosterone level. You want to know the free testosterone. Free is, as I mentioned before, some of your testosterone hormone is going to be hanging out in your blood in that docking station. Where it's, not, it's there, but it's not doing anything. It's not helping you. It's not helping you get an erection. It's not helping you max out your CrossFit workout like David likes to do. So we want to make sure that it's not just sitting there hanging out doing nothing. And then there are now something called the bioavailable testosterone, which is exactly what it sounds like. That's doing the work for you. Other 2 or 3 things you want to look at, there's an issue, is you definitely want to look at your prolactin level and your IGF-1, which is the growth hormone, is a way to measure the growth hormone. That's what you guys should be looking at. There's a couple other ones that I'll go through here in a little bit. That's the core for men, that's more all male hormone labs. Like I said, this is his LH. His LH, this you see here is for women. Hopefully David is not in menopause. That would be a whole other issue. But his LH was low but normal. What you see here, and I think we're going to get into in a little bit. Homocysteine is a marker of a couple things really quickly. It does affect memory. This is a marker of cholesterol. Okay. So if this is high, we want you under 10, which you're barely there. It's a marker for cholesterol. It can lead to Alzheimer's and stroke, increase your stroke risk. It also is a marker part of your glutathione pathway, which is an antioxidant. Anybody in the supplement or holistic field has heard of glutathione before. And if it's elevated, you probably have a mutation called an MTHFR, which again, most people who read this stuff have heard about. It's your body's inability to, one of the enzymes you need to break down B12 or folate. Here, David is borderline and normally wouldn't be concerned about it, but because of something we're going to show a little bit later, we'll get into a little more debate about it.
Oh, and I do want to preface everything by saying that I do intermittent fast. I do like typically 2 meals a day or 1 meal a day, and I'll fast all the way till about 3 p.m. I'm not eating anything before 3 p.m. And then I'm doing CrossFit style workouts, HIIT training, or cardio before in a fasted state around noon. And that's pretty much how these labs came out. And this was in January. And I actually have not had an opportunity to get updated labs because of the COVID thing. But okay, I just wanted to say that.
So here are the cholesterol panel. And traditional cholesterol panels, we see here the terms of people have probably heard of before, LDL, HDL. That's very antiquated at this point. If that's what your regular doctor is doing for you, it's not really what we go by anymore. So what we look for is, one thing we definitely look at is the particle number, which is what the P stands for here. That's the number. LDL is your bad cholesterol. It's not by itself. It used to be the one everybody thought caused heart attack and stroke. That's not really by itself the whole story, but that's another story. That's not something I'm going to go into a deep dive in today. He's having, we want him around 1,000 to be okay. He's at 1190, not too bad. But then you look at his regular cholesterol, which is old school traditional, he's at 150. There's actually literally a whole program based on like 10 different factors now that tells us what your bad cholesterol is supposed to be. Based on the fact that he's not overweight, he's not diabetic, he has no heart history. We watched this, and again, we'll get into his chosen diet. There's a big debate now what to do with this. There's nobody who has the right answer at this point. It's kind of based on a lot of other things. You have to base on your lifestyle, what your goals are, what the other numbers are. Triglycerides, which is another factor which you still look at, even though it's still old school, 49. So for somebody, that is awesome. I mean, you really want to be under 100, 120. He's at 49. So that is good. One thing I'll mention that it will come up is that some people want your bad cholesterol down. We'll say, I don't care how low you go. You need your cholesterol and make the hormones that you need. You need to make testosterone. You need to make your cortisol. You need to make your DHEA, which we'll talk about in a second. So we don't want it as low as anything. We want it to still be at a somewhat normal level. This is David's good cholesterol, the HDL, and that's 72. And this is his particle size, which is a little low. That's something we just don't follow up on. That's not a big deal. We will also look at the size of the small LDL. That's the one that we know is a risk factor for heart issues, and he's less than 90. That's good. So even though his bad cholesterol was was elevated, the fact that this is okay, all the other numbers he had are really good. We know David's healthy and he works out all the time, and you have to take the whole picture. It's not one number we're not hyper focused on. This is all his cholesterol stuff. I'm not going to, pretty much again, all the other numbers were good. I'm not going to do any more deep dive into the cholesterol unless you have some time. I want to get to, we're talking men's health here a little bit. There you go. So another hormone I mentioned is what's called
by the way, you have to right click again or left click.
There you go. DHEA there's a lot of things. The balance that is, there's a couple of things. One is the seesaw for your cortisol in some ways. So if your cortisol is high, your DHA a lot of times will be low. If I have time, I can pull up a slide just kind of showing a little bit why. That's one thing. Second, it helps with weight. It helps with your body's ability with your insulin resistance. It also helps is one of the precursors to making testosterone. So the way we talk about the pathway is it's kind of like a bunch of dominoes. So if his DHA is low, or it's not the best analogy, it's like a stream. If he doesn't have enough water to get to the end and make testosterone, we're fighting an uphill battle to get him where he needs to be. So you need to replenish the stream here. And this DHA, we normally in men, I like it anything above 200. Some people say 250. Some people even say 300. But there's no set rule for that. 118 for somebody Dave's age is too low.
Too low.
And we normally would supplement. The one thing to be careful of, especially in females, we're talking about females, but even this can actually, you have to watch this. If you're supplementing at high doses, it can lead to hair growth in the wrong places. It can be converted into estrogen in men, and men don't want man boobs. Women, they don't want to lose hair. So it's not something you just go on whatever your favorite supplement site is. Hey, I'm going to get a bunch of DHEA. You want to make sure that you're doing things the right way. Otherwise, when you mess with your hormones, especially around testosterone, it can make it worse. You have to understand that testosterone can convert to estrogen. That's why a lot of men who are on testosterone have to be on an estrogen blocker. You don't want that. So again, it's not something you play with on your own. Some people want to take vitamin C on your own. That's fine. These type of things, you want to make sure you're working with somebody who knows what they're doing. We do check estrogen in men. That's what estradiol is. Because men, we're finding more and more do need estrogen, especially for brain health and energy levels. So you are on the low, we're kind of happy where he is now. If it's too high, like we said, then we have to block it, but everything's being converted to estrogen. Or if it's too low, he may feel not as sharp as he used to be. And a lot of executives or athletes even find that they're low, they need that to be replaced.
Oh, how do you replace that? Just like estrogen?
Same way you can either do supplements like women do. Anything from maca to chasteberry to ashwagandha to there are men who in their patches get testosterone and estrogen. Very low dose, and it's fine. Men are getting progesterone now. Both sexes need the same hormones, not in the same doses, obviously. Insulin. I mentioned insulin. What you always want to do is get your insulin fasting because it affects so many things. Low, we don't. If he was feeling really fatigued and tired, it means he's probably not getting enough energy, not enough carbs or calories in his diet. He's fine where he is. We'd rather be lower than anything above 8. That's what I look at. If anybody's fasting is above 8, we look at other things like we can either do anything from a 3-hour glucose tolerance test to a lot of other things to kind of get a better idea. I mentioned prolactin. The patients who have high prolactin are going to have low testosterone. Dave was normal. Now, this is what we talked about. We talked about the docking station. This is what's called sex hormone binding globulin. Dave is actually on the low side. So most of his testosterone, which is the most strict binding hormone to it, is low. So most of his testosterone should be free floating in the stream. It's not something where he's bogged up. I have men who are at 160, which is double what it should be, and they'll feel their testosterone levels are normal or high normal, but they still feel the same way that people with low testosterone is. So this is very important. That's where we have to supplement with DHEA, or actually boron will work really well to get this down. Sometimes fasting, low protein diet. There's no wonder drug for this yet. And if somebody finds it, let me know. But a lot of courses I go to, this always comes up. But for Dave, that was normal.
Okay.
We talked about insulin growth factor. This is for growth hormone. Dave is exactly where he should be. I hope so, with the amount that he works out and his way he lives his lifestyle. He's doing a good job there.
Cool.
Pregnenolone. I didn't mention. This is what they call the mother hormone. And hopefully, if we have time at the end, I can show the whole pathway. This is what makes everything else. So, as I mentioned, it's a stream. So, if the head of the stream where everything starts is low, we want to. Somebody Dave's age should be around 100. Dave's 11.
Whoa.
So you saw his pregnenolone is low. You saw his DHA is low. So again, if it starts from the top, if you can't just fix the testosterone. Testosterone is low, but you don't fix what's making it. You're just kind of not fixing the problem, and eventually you're going to cause other issues. Pregnenolone is also good for mental acuity. It's good for energy, blood sugar. Patients who have inflammation, it works really well to help bring down inflammation. It's a big steroid hormone. Something that your doctor, if you're an optimizer, even a health person in general, you should definitely have your doctor check out for you. Lipoprotein A. This confuses things a little bit. We talk about normally if Dave just had the one LDL being high, that could be because of the way he eats. He eats a lot of meat in his diet. I think he'll admit that. The lipoprotein A, we don't. I don't think we can see the actual things. 50 or 60, I think, is normal. He's double there. This is another one of the markers that we use to look at patients who are at higher risk for cholesterol or stroke or other risks. This is a little concern that maybe we do want to pay attention and really work on his cholesterol as much as we can with diet, exercise, and do other things. Men will tend to not report as much with the cholesterol. Where's your other testosterone level?
Oh, the free testosterone, yeah? But we did go off of two lab reports. The initial one that I got from my GP.
Oh, that's why. Okay, that's what happened. I don't have that copy. You have it?
Yeah.
That's why I don't have it. I don't. What was your testosterone?
Oh gosh. Can't recall off the top of my head, but
I think it was in the. I don't want to make numbers up. I know it was a little on
yeah,
the lower side.
it was definitely on the lower side.
I'm gonna look something up while you're doing.
Okay, but so what you did was you prescribed me DHEA
We did
and
okay. I could
Pregnenolone.
give. What we did, yeah. What we were trying to do is, like I said, there's two parts. Any patient with testosterone, there's really, like I said, the first thing I do to patients is again, if you have any of those check marks or missing certain things, you're fatigued, you're not having an erection, your memory's falling, you're depressed, then we usually want to proceed and go to step B, which is how are we going to fix this? And there's really three ways that we can fix it, or really three and a half. A is lifestyle, where like Dave mentioned, sleep and high intensity exercise and cold exposure and fasting, all are going to boost things naturally. For those people who are biohackers and follow Mike Mutzel or Ben Greenfield, they have naked pictures up there of them playing with their red light therapy, and that's been
Yeah.
shown to bump the testosterone up 100, 200 points. So you can do those things, and a lot of patients will get their testosterone up and feel better. And
Or sunlight, right? By the way, photobiomodulation we're talking about, right? You can go to the beach and shine your nads up to the sky if you were so inclined.
you can shine your nads up to the sky, yes. Eloquently put. That's the first, that's part of it on my plan for everybody because it's easy to do and doesn't cost anything. No side effects, well, minimal side effects. Then you get into the supplement part, which is what we did with you, because the prescription medicine, if you want to have children, it's limiting what you can do because certain medicines you can't take. And two,
Boy, that's interesting. Can you
oh,
unpack
sure.
that?
Yeah, right now, if you're taking regular testosterone, either injectable or with cream,
No, I'm not.
Of what?
I'm not. Are you saying that I am? I'm
Oh,
not.
no. I'm saying men who
Men who are. Okay.
want to have kids really don't we don't really always recommend doing any type of true hormone replacement,
Got it.
at least with testosterone, because it affects fertility. So most doctors will take you off of it while you're trying to conceive. That's one thing we always tell them, and understand that it's kind of all or nothing. When you're taking it, it works great, but if you stop it, it's not like you save it up. It goes away, and you got to start back from scratch.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Do you feel worse? Like, do you hear guys who have been on it, then they stop, and then they just can't get back to baseline? Is that ever a risk?
We may get back to base. Like they will be lower unless you really can do the stuff we just talked about. A lot of times you can add the supplements that we kind of did with you, like DHA, Pregnenolone, maca, things like that, and the peptides that are out there as well can kind of give you the middle ground, which sometimes that's what they'll do. So you can replace it. Some people that works for, some unfortunately will go lower, and back to trade-off.
Okay. So what's the dosage? So you prescribed Pregnenolone and DHEA for me. And anyway, I should say that I'm reporting I'm feeling a lot better since taking this and sleeping well. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it's a combination of maybe a whole host of factors here that I'm maybe less stressed out, or I'm not having to commute less. The workload is a lot lighter now because of the work from home. But yeah, so I'm feeling a lot better, and I'm thinking like, okay, the Pregnenolone and the DHA definitely helped. But then I kind of I'm taking 50 milligrams twice a day. So once in the morning, once at night. Is that too much?
Of the DHEA? No.
Of the Pregnenolone.
Oh, Pregnenolone, yeah. It depends on how you feel, and you were really low. And you also, like you said, you have a high impact lifestyle. You work out a lot, but also you're normally running around all over the place. So yeah, that's fine. For some of you sedentary and 65, it depends. It really depends on, we have to follow the lab work. There are patients that are on 100, 150, 200 milligrams. But like I said, it's a stream. So what happens is you may need to get the Pregnenolone high, but then the DHA goes high, and then you get estrogen formation, or you get your testosterone actually goes too high and you overshoot. It's still a fine line. But pregnenolone usually we're pretty good where you are, even a little higher.
Okay. We have a really good question from the audience here. What are the biggest things you found people do that hurt their testosterone levels? And we kind of covered it in the beginning, but are there any things that you want to?
That hurt their testosterone levels?
Yeah. What are the biggest factors? I mean, I guess sleep, right? And
it's a combination. Well, there's a couple different things. It's stress, over-exercise, eating like garbage, overweight. That's the first thing. The other basic things are, what's it called? It could be anything from trauma, it's anatomical things, varicocele, trauma, wearing really tight boxer shorts actually can drop your testosterone. So it's usually a combination of all those different things. Head trauma, because head is where your pituitary is. Head trauma, concussion, all those things can affect your testosterone level. So it's I mean, we're not going to get into it tonight really what's called the HPA axis. It goes from the brain. If any of those, the whole flow is disturbed, it's not going to work. So doctors got to kind of do a deep dive and find where the problem is in the whole pathway.
How do you feel about these testosterone boosters that you can find on Amazon? They have great reviews.
It depends. I mean, really? some of them are good. Some of them have things that will make you get man boobs if you don't watch it.
Right.
Some of them have toxins in them. They have other side effects. They work. I mean, some of them are very similar to what I give my patients. Sometimes they're higher doses. They may have things that are used off label. They have some benefit. Just make sure that it's organic. Make sure it's not something that, if you don't know what's in it, then be careful. And if it's like, and also things to make sure things like there's no sugar in that. Don't add sugar, inflammation, or anything else. But I don't have a problem. I as long as I look at it, I'm okay with it.
All right. So let's talk about steroids a little bit. I was approached by a trainer once, and he was like, you know what? He was 50 something. He was like, as long as you're not doing steroids to where it's excessive. If you do super low dose steroids, that can actually be a good thing. What's your position on that?
No. I think there's maybe, again, there's two. One, I'm a doctor, so I have to say, I'm saying that no matter what.
Right.
Two, I think we know it's going to affect the pathway. And honestly, there are now 100 different things that weren't out there 5-10 years ago when anybody's a sports fan, even the 90s in baseball when it became really rampant in other sports. There's so many things out there now. I mean, I just mentioned technology. We just talked about the guys who are trying their gnats to the sky or on the red light and then boosting at 100, 200 points. If you can do that or mess your whole steroid up and all the side effects that people have with steroids, why do it? I mean, I don't really, again, there's so many new things out there compared to 5, 10, 15 years ago. It's not necessary.
Right. So, okay, let's take photobiomodulation as an example, right? So you have the Juve lights. Do you use them yourself?
Question. Yes, I do. I love my favorites are the beds. I have New Yorkitis, so I don't have one in the apartment, but I love doing when I go to wherever covers to use.
And did you do a before and after testosterone test and see?
I have not, but I've seen numerous people do it before and after, and the highest boost I've seen is 250.
Okay. All right. We have another question here from Jared. What about things like SARMs, which athletes cannot use but appear to have many health benefits?
Okay. I knew that was going to come up.
Well, what is SARMs for people who don't know?
SARMs are kind of like, they're different chemicals. It's kind of been grouped. It's kind of now the politically correct words for some things that are kind of in that have anabolic effects of building muscle or recovery. They do have some detrimental effects. They can be anything from affecting your heart, inflammation, causing infection, to just messing with your hormone levels. They do. There's a two-part answer. Some of them do work. Some of them you put on muscle. They also do some side effects. Again, there are better ones than there were 20 years ago. They're not regulated. They're not legal. I can't prescribe them. Now you can find everything on YouTube or Reddit very easily, and there's protocols out there. There's things out there like PEG-MGF and the CJC peptide, the growth hormone peptides that are kind of that gray area that you can use that work really well if you're a recreational athlete, if you're on the professional or competitive athlete where you're getting tested. Obviously, most of these you can't use, but they're safer than the steroids. I can't recommend them because I'm a physician. But there are a lot of things that are right below that line, which I think are very helpful.
We have a question from Dr. Paulvin at Physiologic. He's asking, does cortisol cause direct suppression? I guess that the direct suppression of testosterone?
It can. If somebody has very high cortisol because of the aromatase hormone, the aromatase enzymes, we do find that it can cause direct inhibition of testosterone levels.
Okay. And how about concussions? Have you seen anything on that?
Oh yeah, I have plenty of patients now. There's the god of it is Dr. Mark Gordon, who's done a lot of incredible studies and lectures. I forgot where he's out of. Where their hormones are just from the repetitive injury is that you have to put on 4 or 5 things to get their testosterone up, and their other hormones. Their whole male hormone, or their whole hormones are just totally gone because the pituitary and the brain is they're just not responding the way they should. A lot of my athletes, especially football or even soccer players, people don't understand that soccer, if you were a high level soccer player, all the times you've headed that ball, you almost guaranteed that a concussion, and they have really low levels and they don't know it. Like football players expect it, hockey players expect it. Soccer, you got to think about it too.
Yeah. Right? Super, it's a depressing situation with that. Okay, so we are kind of coming up on time here. We are going to also...
Trivia.
Yes, right. We have a trivia question that I wanted to ask you before I asked the audience what the answer was. Okay, so the trivia question was... I'm going to bring that back up here. When was testosterone, the term testosterone, first coined? Was it A, 1786, B, 1889, C, 1905, or D, 1935? And give us your best educated guess, Neil.
I'm going to say, was it 1909 you said? 1905?
1905 or 1935?
1905.
All right, so 2005 marks the 100th anniversary of the creation of the term hormone by Ernest Starling. Although its biological effects were known since antiquity, the name testosterone was coined only in 1935 when Ernst Lacour isolated it from bull testes. So that's where it's created, right, in your testes, and that's why they're shining the red light down there, right?
Exactly.
All right, cool. So we got that down, and yeah, I guess we're going to wrap it up here. I want to keep things short and digestible. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about how people can follow you and follow up? Oh, wait, we got to find out who the winner is. So Julia, can you tell us who won? If we don't have a winner, that's another story. But do we have a winner, Julia?
I think the first person who ended up answering was Avisha.
Of course.
Of course.
And honestly, he answered like the second you finished asking the question.
No way. Okay.
There you go. Good job, Avisha.
But did he get it right, is the question.
He said D.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He is correct. Yeah. So we got a winner, Vanna. There we go.
Oh, there you go. Avisha wins a free copy of Boundless, and also he gets to see you, Neil. A free consultation with Neil. That's awesome. So how can other people follow you and find out more about how to get a consultation with you?
Sure. Now, in terms of making a consult with me, either in person or over telemedicine, I'm in like over 10 states telemedicine-wise. Just go to the website, doctor, spelled out, DOCTOR, last name Paulvin, PAULVIN.com. and you can set up something right there. And the most places I'm on social media is Instagram, and it is Dr. Paulvin, and I put stuff up there almost every other day. There's some cool IGTVs, and check me out.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to link to you and all the notes afterwards. And all right, so thank you all for joining us tonight. Please do check out our website, www.biohackthe.world, for all the latest news and updates and our newly launched Biohacker TV. It's a section where you can watch carefully curated biohacking videos by us. And also, please register for the next talk, which will be exactly 1 week from today, Thursday, 7 p.m., with our very own Chief Science Officer, Avisha Nesaiver, who also won the trivia today. And he's going to be joining us to talk about how to discern fact from fiction, how to do your own due diligence when considering a certain modality, a biohack, or a treatment. So that's going to be super exciting. I can't wait to have him. And do remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, join our mailing list, and get all the latest news and biohacking trends. And so until next week, stay hungry, stay focused, and good night. All right, now I'm trying to close out here.